Hello, everyone at Women Talk Sports. This is Stephanie Perleberg, and I am here with Sarah Haskins. Hey, Sarah.
Hi, how are you doing, Stephanie?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great today.
Awesome. So, Sarah is a professional triathlete. She grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, and was a swimmer and cross country runner in high school, right?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah. She went on to run track and cross country at the University of Tulsa. And then a year after she graduated from there, she went pro in triathlon. So she has under her belt 22 professional wins. In 2006, she was the U.S. national champ. In the triathlon, she was silver medalist at the 2007 Pan American Games, 11th at the Beijing Olympics, so she's an Olympian. Pretty cool. And then she won the Pan American Games in 2011. So she is out there making a name for herself, which is really cool. So I thought she would be a perfect person to come talk to us because triathlon is an up-and-coming sport, and you are with child, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
So there's all of these athletes, it seems like, post-Olympics that are having children, and I thought it would be really cool to get your perspective on that. So the question that I always have for triathletes is, so you had experience in swimming and then in running, but how do you take that and transition it into triathlon?
Yeah. Well, I first started swimming. That was my first passion. I started swimming at a very young age, year round at 9, and then started running cross country and track in high school, ended up running in college. And I remember seeing triathlon on TV and thought, okay, well, I have the swim and I have the run. I hadn't biked since I was 12 years old. I was 22 at the time. So I figured, why not try a sport that already had the two sports in it that I loved, which was swimming and running. And I figured that was really cool to be able to do both of those sports at the same time, essentially.
That's awesome. Um, and I know runners are found to have like a very distinct culture, and I'm sure that swimming has its own culture. How does triathlon, which blends those two and then adds in cycling, how is that this sport like special to you because of those
Yeah.
aspects?
I've been in the swimming world, the running world, and I've been in the cycling world a little bit. So triathlon being a combination of all three sports definitely has its own unique culture. And I mean, for me, being in triathlon, I think what's really cool about this sport is that there's people of all different levels and all different ages competing. I mean, you have kids competing in the sport, and then you have athletes in their 80s competing at triathlon. And I'm pregnant right now. I'm obviously not competing, but I'm still able to swim, bike, and run. And, well, I'm biking on the trainer, but
Yeah.
but I think that is probably my favorite part about the culture of triathlon, just the fact that it's so accepting to all different people. A lot of times runners who have had injuries will migrate to triathlon,
Hmm.
or swimmers who want to, expand their workouts outside of the pool will migrate into triathlon. So I think it has a little something for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, as a runner, we were always told to either swim or bike if we were injured. I mean, I can understand how that crossover happens where people are like, I've been injured for a while, I started to bike, and it was awesome, so I'm just gonna go for the try. So it's really cool.
Right.
But as a professional triathlete, you have to really focus on, you have to basically be pro in all of three of these events. So how do you manage training for swimming, biking, and running?
Yeah.
That's like crazy to me.
Well, it's definitely a time management, and it helps in its efficiency. I feel in triathlon, when I train, every workout that I do has a purpose, and I really want to make every workout count because you don't have a lot of wiggle room for, you know, just going out and for a bike spin that doesn't have a purpose and a meaning to accomplish your goals.
Right.
So for me, like when you're running, for instance, you'll have several times a week a really hard workout, and then a lot of your other runs will be easy to moderate runs to help build that aerobic base. In
Hmm.
triathlon, my running, for instance, my volume isn't quite as high as if I was just running because I'm getting so much of an aerobic base from the swimming and the biking that I really do more quality versus quantity, and that kind
Okay.
of goes the same for all three sports. So
That's kind of cool. So they all work off of each other. So the fact that you're swimming every day and biking means that you don't have to log like 100 miles a week on the running wise.
exactly,
That's
exactly.
cool.
I know. I mean, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to do much swimming or biking if I was running that much.
Yeah, well, that's what I
I've
figure
done that
because,
much when I was running, so.
yeah. I mean, because it's a lot to have on your plate to balance out the training with. So that's cool. Which one is your favorite? The bike, swim, or run?
That's a good question. I love the variety in triathlon, just the fact that you can change it up every day. But my best in racing is probably the open water swimming.
Okay.
But in the race, my favorite part is the run, probably because because it's the third segment. So when you get to the run, you're like, okay, you did the swim, you did the bike, and now it's just focused to the finish line. And even if you're having a good race or a bad race, you're gonna give it your all to get to that line and try to get your goal.
Yeah. I always heard that swimming was one of the more challenging. I mean, you've had experience with that, but it seems like because swimmers or bikers and runners have such muscular legs that the swim part is more difficult. So it's kind of cool that that's your best event and that you have that background to help you through that. Because I know swimming in open waters is a little different than swimming in a pool. So
It is. It is very different. But like I said, my first sport was swimming, so that has helped me a huge amount.
yeah,
And I think I did a lot of swimming before I started running. So swimming is one of those things. I feel if you've learned as a child and spent a lot of time in the pool, it's kind of like riding a bike. Like you have to
yeah,
get back in shape, but you don't forget how to do it. So that's been a huge help for me in the sport of triathlon.
awesome. So you have a ton of achievements under your belt. Which one is the most memorable to you?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, it's hard to pick just one, but probably just being at the Olympic Games, getting ready to walk out onto the starting line, and just knowing that, from a little girl, I always watched the Olympics, whether it be swimming or gymnastics or running, and just the fact that I was there competing, representing my country. It just kind of hit you all at once. It was just that moment right before the start, kind of walking out to the start line.
That's crazy. It gives me chills, you telling me about that, because that's something like people dream about. Even going there as a spectator would be amazing, but to be like to qualify and be like getting ready for this race, that's like the biggest thing that you've probably ever done in your life. That has to be such an amazing feeling. That's very cool.
Oh, well, thanks. I mean, there's a lot of hard work to get there,
Yeah.
but it was at the time, you're pretty much so wrapped up in what you're doing and you're focused on, and you almost don't want to think about it as any other race because you don't want to let the nerves get the best of you. But there's moments where it does hit you, and looking back, you can see how special it was.
Yeah. Did it ever sink in that you actually competed in the Olympics?
I mean, I think like right when I was, at the starting line, just kind of walking out. I mean, I was focused, but at
Hmm.
that moment, just seeing the crowd and walking out with your teammates, it just gave you kind of a good rush of adrenaline before race start.
Awesome. Okay, so transitioning a little bit to the little baby bump. Um, how has training changed since you found out you were pregnant?
Yeah. It's definitely changed. I like to say that I'm not training, I'm just exercising. So, which is very true. So, my season ended in October, and my husband and I decided we were going to just see what happens. We had hoped that, it would happen quickly. And if it didn't happen by January rolled around, I was going to maybe just do another season and try and go for it again next year. But fortunately, 2 weeks later, we had an answer.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, we were ready. I was so basically I'd say the first few weeks, I didn't notice a whole lot of changes. Like my heart rate was a little bit higher, but I felt fine. Right around, I'd say 8 weeks, I really started to notice that I had to back down on the
Okay.
workouts that I was doing. I mean, I wasn't doing anything really hard prior to that, but I noticed at 8 weeks, if I did too much, I was just way too tired the next day. And from that point on, I've kind of slowly been either maintaining or backing down. especially my times in the pool and on the run, obviously going at same moderate effort are much slower than when I'm, regularly training. So,
Yeah.
I'm just enjoying being able to still swim and bike and run. Like I said, I'm not taking the risk of biking outside, so I'm staying on the trainer.
Yeah.
But, I've been training my whole life, and so that's something that is definitely recommended to keep doing, or like I said, exercising. So, I'm just enjoying it, and as an athlete, you want to keep your body moving, you want to stay fit, and I think it's healthy for myself and for my baby girl. We're having a girl. We found out the other week. So
congratulations! Have you picked out names?
we're in that process right now. So
I'm sure that's kind of stressful. It's a lot to worry about.
I mean, I feel like we have a few names we're thinking about, but I feel like July is my due date. By the time July rolls around, we might have completely different set names. So yeah, we'll see. But I'm just going to continue as long as I feel good. I'm sure by the 8th or 9th month, I'm not sure about the running anymore at that point. It might be just more swimming because I don't want to do anything that's crazy uncomfortable or make me really sore. Mm-hmm. But we'll see how my body feels.
Awesome. So what are your plans post giving birth?
Yeah. Well, for the first couple months, I'm just planning on taking it really easy, just adjusting to being mom with our baby. And I don't want to rush anything because I know during pregnancy, your body produces a lot of relaxin, which just to help everything kind of stretch out during the birthing process.
Yeah.
And so the first 6 weeks, I know I want to be really cautious, and I don't want to start back too soon because I feel like that could lead to a chance of an injury with my body, just, kind of getting back to normal. So the goal is around probably 2 to 3 months after giving birth, really kind of getting back on more of a training program. Mm-hmm. But again, I'm just going to have to see in how my body's recovering. And I've been racing for 8 years professionally, and I feel like the most valuable thing I've learned is being able to feel my body and listen to my body. So I feel after birth that's going to be a valuable tool to use just to know when it's okay to push and when I need to back off.
Yeah. And I think that's something that athletes really do a good job of, being able to feel their body and make adjustments based on that. So it's great that you have the ability to do that. And I'm sure it'll be like a totally different lifestyle having a little girl around, because I know your husband is your coach and your training partner, right? So he's out there.
He is. Yeah, he helps a great deal. So moving forward, that's just going to make it possible for me to help me to be able to race and train at the same level I was before. So we'll see, so to speak, because he's been a great help, and we're looking forward to bringing her along to the races and just kind of being a part of our lives. And I'm sure he'll be running while I'm running. He says he'll be running next to me with the baby stroller.
Oh, good. At least he'll be pushing it, because that is hard to do.
Yeah, it is. So he's faster than me, so I figure that'll slow him down a little bit, and we'll stay more even.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm sure your daughter is going to be super pumped that her mom is a pro triathlete, and she'll get to go to all these cool races. So I'm slightly jealous that she's going to have this fun life in the sports world. That's very cool.
Oh, well, when I first found out, I didn't know what I was having, but for some reason, girl kept popping into my head. And
oh, really?
And so, yeah, but I think, at the very beginning, and then I kind of was going back and forth, but some of my thoughts were that, I think it's a cool opportunity to be able to be a role model for her, and she'll be able to see mom work hard and set goals. And, I know the days because I know it's going to be very tough getting back into shape, and it's tough training full time and really pushing to the limit. So that'll be just another motivation, just to know that, she's watching me, and just set a good example for her.
Definitely. It is a good example. And I'm sure that once she's older, she'll really understand how amazing it is that her mom was in the Olympics, and hopefully she'll take some of those characteristics of hard work and apply it to whatever she's doing. So that's very cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for maybe people who are starting the triathlon or someone who wants to go pro, maybe? What advice do you have?
Yeah. I think like my dad and my brother, they just started triathlon a couple of years ago. So I think the cool thing about triathlon, anyone can start it. There's sprint distance, there's Olympic distance. A lot of people, when they hear a triathlon, they think Ironman.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's such a far distance. And I don't think like for the everyday person to starting, they need to like say, oh, okay, I'm going to do an Ironman this
Yeah.
year. I think it's great to start off with the sprint distance. And if you want to do an Ironman, work your way up. But if you enjoy doing the sprints, keep doing the sprints. And my advice is to find a group in your area. There's a lot of towns and cities have local tri clubs.
Yeah.
And I always think it's better to work out with groups, and you can learn a lot from the group. And, you know, maybe it's a spin class, or maybe it's, you know, the running session or the swim session. And, you know, have fun. Don't do too much too soon, because that's where I see a lot of athletes getting injured, is they just, especially building up their run, you know, they just get gung-ho and they're from 0 to 60 in a couple weeks, and then they have to be sidelined for a couple months with an injury. So, you know, always be on the cautious side when you're starting out and gradually build into it.
Yeah.
And as far as advice for someone turning pro, I would say, you know, the rules change every year as far as like getting your pro card. I know you can talk to USA Triathlon, but I would say compete age group for at least a couple years to get your feet wet, and compete age group at the higher level. Go to age group worlds or age group nationals and get that experience first before, you know, you get your pro card, to get, you know, your feet wet a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no rush, really. It's good to, I think, have a few years with age group experience under your belt.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for talking with me and sharing that advice with our listeners. So we wish you the best of luck, and hopefully the rest of pregnancy and training goes super well for you.
Thanks, Stephanie. It was nice to meet you.
You too.